Chapter 168. Because of what Feng Zhao had said, many people were not in the mood to watch the following award ceremonies. After all, it was always the same few teams that were presenting awards. Every year, it was always those familiar names and familiar faces, so there was no novelty to it anymore. Other than the fans of those few teams, everyone else was discussing the exchange match the next day. Fiery Bird's annual conference was not just a meeting. There would be an exchange match the next day. There would be exchanges between esports athletes and fans, and there would also be exchanges between athletes and teams. The official live broadcast had already been arranged. For example, the first exchange match the next day would be Feng Zhao against 10 challengers. Silverlight did not have any match arrangements for the team exchange match, but they could privately arrange a match with others. At 7 p.m., after the awards ceremony ended, everyone moved to a nearby building. There was a sumptuous dinner waiting for them. Because his identity had been exposed, Feng Zhao's value in the gaming circles had soared. He had just sat down at the dining table and had not even finished a piece of bread when he met 3 investors looking for him to endorse. These investors all had collaborations with Fiery Bird in the gaming peripherals industry. Now they had their eyes on Feng Zhao. After all, the annual solo champion had attracted a lot of attention. Just from the entertainment news that had dominated the headlines of every continent today, it was all about Feng Zhao alive after 500 years. Wayne was worried about Feng Zhao's condition. After all, there was still an exchange match to be broadcast live tomorrow. Feng Zhao needed a good rest today. There was a time difference between Huangzhou and Yinzhou, and not everyone could adjust well. Wayne advised Feng Zhao to return to the hotel and rest. After all, those who really wanted to collaborate with Feng Zhao would contact him again after the annual conference. Feng Zhao did not feel any discomfort, but he knew that if he continued to stay here, there would be even more people looking for him. He would not be able to have dinner, so he agreed to Wayne's suggestion. He returned to the hotel and ordered some food to be sent over. While in the conference hall, Feng Zhao had received many messages from relatives, friends, and classmates. Even Xue Jing had sent him a message. He was flabbergasted that a composer like Feng Zhao would play games and become so famous. It had not been convenient to take calls in the conference hall, so Feng Zhao had only replied to their messages. After returning to his hotel room, he had returned calls to a few important people. By the time everything was over, it was almost 9 p.m. Previously, when Feng Zhao had given his speech in the conference hall, it had been around 5 p.m. The 3-hour application period had already ended. Perhaps Fiery Bird had already filtered out the 10 slots. After browsing the internet, the 10 names had indeed been announced on Fiery Bird's official website. They were all game IDs, 4 professional players and 4 non-professional players. The system had randomly selected them, and then Fiery Bird's people had selected them. These 8 people were all ranked highly in their respective continents, but were not qualified to participate in the annual meeting. As for the other 2 slots, they were completely randomly selected by the system. They were 2 ordinary players, and Fiery Bird's people did not interfere. Now, the accounts of those 2 normal players had already been bought. The exact amount was not revealed, but it was rumored on the internet to be no less than 2 million. When people outside the gaming circle saw this number, they didn't believe it at first glance. It's just a game. Is there a need to go this far? It must be a publicity stunt. This isn't buying an account. It's just borrowing an account to play a game. Is there a need to spend so much? Those who spend money are fools, right? Some people were indifferent. They had seen it many times and were already used to it. The gaming circle has always been crazy. Throwing money around is common. The money that the rich spend on equipment is something that you might not even get in a year of work. It was still unknown who had bought those 2 accounts, but the other 8 had already started to make their presence known on the internet. For these people who had already made a name for themselves in their respective continents, they would not sell this opportunity for 1 or 2 million. They wanted to cross swords with the legendary alive after 500 years and would not let go of this opportunity to make a name for themselves. So what if they could not beat him and lost? At least they could show their faces in front of gaming fans all over the world. There were already people who had been selected who posted videos on their social media platforms. The gist of it was, very happy to have been selected and looking forward to a battle with God alive after 500 years. And in the comments section of their latest posts, Netizens from various continents were watching, congratulating, and bidding for the accounts. It was very lively. Feng Zhao found the previous game videos of the 8 contestants and made a simple analysis. Even if he believed in his own ability, he would not be so arrogant as to think that he was omnipotent. His past experiences had taught him not to underestimate any opponent. By watching the game videos of these opponents, he could understand their habits and battle styles, and he had a rough idea of what to expect. After watching the videos, Feng Zhao casually browsed through Yinzhou's entertainment news. As expected, Yinzhou's entertainment media were already excited. The news that had broken out today had caught many people unprepared. But for Yinzhou's entertainment media, there had been surprises. But after the surprises, there had been pleasant surprises, and they were all lively. Previously, they had not known where to start, but now they knew. They dug deep into everything related to Feng Zhao, including Feng Zhao's old residence in the Black Street. Yu Qing had even sent Feng Zhao a message saying that entertainment reporters were heading over and wanted to see where Feng Zhao had lived. They were very generous with their payment. Although the place had already been purchased by Yu Qing and used as a warehouse, Yu Qing still gave Feng Zhao a heads up. Feng Zhao expressed that it did not matter. Since it was already Yu Qing's place, everything was up to Yu Qing. Feng Zhao did not think that his experience in the Black Street was a dark history. There was nothing that could not be shown to others, and the things that could not be told to others would not be known to a second person. This time, Yu Qing had borrowed Feng Zhao's fame to make a small fortune. Many people in the Black Street were envious. After that, Feng Zhao did not pay attention to the news online. A few people in charge of Fiery Bird contacted Feng Zhao and informed him of the arrangements for the next day. As the opening match of the exchange competition, they were worried that Feng Zhao would be under too much pressure. However, after speaking with Feng Zhao, they knew that they had worried for nothing. The next day, Tang brought a team of Fiery Bird players and a 10th-generation console to the hotel's 62nd floor. Cameras followed them the entire way, proving that there had been no substitutions. Actually, when Tang had found out about the number of challengers, he had wanted to increase the number from 10 to 20. He had asked Feng Zhao, and Feng Zhao had not objected. Tang had also seen the viral video of Feng Zhao riding a motorcycle to kill monsters and rake in points. Perhaps 10 or 20 people would not make a difference to Feng Zhao. However, in the end, Tang still suppress the idea of increasing the number of challengers. Firstly, this was not a serious competition. It was just a place where esports athletes interacted with fans every year. The focus was on entertainment and communication. Just showing off a little was enough. If he suddenly changed his mind and increased the number of challengers, there might be a lot of trouble. For example, those who bought and sold accounts. They were very savage. At this moment, the large screen showed the status of the other challengers. They were all prepared, and some had even entered ahead of time to lie in ambush. Before a challenger entered the game, he had specially sent Feng Zhao a voice message. Please don't show any mercy. We want to see your true strength. Don't treat this as ordinary fun. When experts exchange blows, they always hoped that the other party would treat them seriously. This was the respect they gave their opponents. The people who had been selected did not care whether the real owners of these IDs were behind these accounts. At this moment, they definitely wanted to see how strong Feng Zhao was. Only then could they determine whether Feng Zhao was really alive after 500 years. Besides, they also considered themselves to be experts. Experts did not need their opponents to show mercy. Feng Zhao replied, okay. When Schwarzer heard this, he had wanted to laugh out loud, but he had just let out a sound when he acutely noticed that there was a camera in his direction. He felt that laughing now would not be a good influence, so he forcefully stifled his laughter into a yawn. Back when the 8 of them had challenged Feng Zhao, the kick they had suffered had left a deep impression on Schwarzer. He had originally thought that in this sort of exchange match, Feng Zhao would definitely go easy. He had never expected that the challengers would take the initiative to ask Feng Zhao not to show mercy. The members of the Silverlight team exchanged a knowing look before looking at the large screen. Mr. Feng, are you ready? The engineers at Fiery Bird headquarters asked. They were not worried about the machine malfunctioning, but they were using this opportunity to conduct research and improve their database to facilitate future upgrades to the new model. Tang had asked Fang Zhao to start the first match of today's exchange match, not only to attract attention and satisfy the curiosity of fans, but also for his own matters. Up until now, among the 100 public gamers using the 10th generation console, Fang Zhao had the highest adaptability. The latest data showed that his adaptability had stabilized at 98 and had even reached 99 a few times. After the 10th generation console had hit the market, there had always been people who had raised doubts about this new model, feeling that it was impossible for gamers to completely adapt to this model. Generally, when the adaptability exceeded 98, it was considered to be completely adapted. Fang Zhao's adaptability data had never been announced, so he could make use of this exchange match to let those doubters know that there were still people who could completely adapt. It would also prove that Fiery Bird's decision was not wrong. Done, Fang Zhao, who had already equipped himself, replied. Begin. The engineers looked at the data on the screen. They did not pay any attention to the battle situation in the game at all. They were only interested in the data and graphs. Different machines, different geographical locations, and different surroundings might not be able to reach the usual adaptability value. I reckon it won't reach 96 at the start, maybe only 95. If you want to increase it, you will need more time. Chapter 169. The others did not notice the reaction of the engineers. They were all staring at the big screen, which was displaying the situation in the game. For this exchange match, Fiery Bird had opened up an area with a diameter of 500 meters. It looked like an ordinary private residential area in a small town from the old era. The tallest buildings were only 6 or 7 stories, and most of them were not very tall. There were bets online on how long this exchange match would take. The Silverlight team had heard the challenger tell Fang Zhao not to show any mercy, so they had hurriedly placed their bets. Since he had told Fang Zhao not to show any mercy, it was probably Fang Zhao's usual style. He would end the match quickly and pick the least. On the internet, the shortest bet was 0 to 10 minutes. All 10 challengers had already logged in. As the one being challenged, Fang Zhao had to wait until all of them had logged in before going online. Furthermore, the moment he went online, the other 10 challengers would be able to see his login coordinates. However, they could only see it the moment they logged in. After 3 seconds, they would not be able to pinpoint his location. This exchange match also did not allow the use of radar, alarms, and other auxiliary tools, but firearms could be brought along. The gun Fang Zhao used was the old-era police gun that the system had gifted him at the start of the game. The detailed information on Fiery Bird's official website showed that the effective range was only 50 meters. This time, Fang Zhao did not wear a helmet when he went online. Through the system's monitoring screen, gaming fans could clearly see alive after 500 years' in-game appearance. You don't say, he really does look 70% similar to Fang Zhao. Plus, the scars are quite unique. I've decided to add a few scars to my in-game appearance. That face with the scars looks familiar. However, at this time, nobody thought too much about this. Instead, they focused on the screen. The system's monitoring screen showed the movements of Fang Zhao and the other 10 challengers to the gaming fans. After logging in, Fang Zhao found a place to hide. Experienced gamers watching the screen could tell that Fang Zhao had not chosen this place randomly. It was a clever place to hide and avoid snipers. Why isn't he moving? Some gaming fans watching the live broadcast asked in the comments section, is he waiting for the challengers to make the first move? After all, in this exchange match, the one being challenged can't see the positions of the challengers. Someone has already gone over. The camera cut. Indeed, there were challengers approaching. There were 3 people closest to Fang Zhao's landing point, and among these 3, 2 were already closing in on Fang Zhao. As for the others, they were probably planning to ambush them. Fang Zhao still didn't move, as if he had become one with the wall behind him. It made people wonder if he had set his account to hibernate. As for the audience, they could see from the coordinates displayed by the system that the distance between the 2 sides was getting closer. 100 meters, 50 meters, 40 meters, 30 meters. When a challenger was only 20 meters away from Fang Zhao, he suddenly saw Fang Zhao take a step to the side, turn the corner of a building, and raise his gun without any hesitation. Bang! The avatars of the 10 challengers displayed at the top of the live broadcast screen turned dark. A one-shot kill. He was immediately sent offline. He looked at the time. 35 seconds. The first person to be killed and go offline was especially dejected when he exited the gaming capsule. He felt that he was the first person to be kicked out of the game out of the 10. He was not in a good mood, but he could not blame Feng Zhao. He had always felt good about himself and felt that his ability was rather strong. On the continent's leaderboards, although there was no sign of him on the overall leaderboards, he could still rank in the top 100. For an amateur player, this kind of ranking was already pretty good. But now, he had been online for less than a minute and was sent offline in less than half a minute. He hadn't even seen his opponent's silhouette before he had been shot, and he simply hadn't had time to react. His vision had gone black, and he had been sent offline. This kind of reality was like a bucket of ice water that had been poured over his head. It also made his complacent mind sober up quite a bit. Don't tell me the gap is really that big? The first challenger to log off kept replaying the brief scene in his mind, trying to figure out where he had exposed himself to the enemy. He had clearly not made a sound when he had approached, so it was impossible for the enemy to have seen him. But very quickly, he had no time to lament. The battle situation on the screen had already changed once again. The second person to go offline after being shot was only 3 seconds behind him. He had probably wanted to take advantage of Feng Zhao dealing with him to launch a sneak attack from the rear. Unfortunately, he had been killed instead. In less than 40 seconds, 2 out of 10 had been eliminated. After discovering Feng Zhao's login point, they all thought that they could finish off the legendary alive after 500 years and were unwilling to let others beat them to it. Unfortunately, they were also the first to be kicked out of the battle. A figure tiptoed over to what he thought was the best sniping point, quietly raised his gun, and calmly waited for the target to appear. However, outside the game, the audience was getting anxious. Bro, don't just look in front. The side, no, it's the back now. Someone is about to ambush you. Hurry up and retreat. I can roughly see this bro's ending already. Gaming fans watching the battle wished they could rush into the game to warn the challenger to retreat and loudly tell him, "You have already been exposed." Bang! Another gunshot rang out, and the avatar at the top of the screen turned black again. 1 minute and 27 seconds. 3 out of 10. Ha! The sniper has actually been found at the entrance. Isn't this concealment skill a little too clumsy? This person is really slow. The experience points on the leaderboards are fake, right? Or did someone substitute in? Or perhaps the exchange match account has been changed. Someone in the chat room of the live broadcast platform said, "Let's wait and see. There are still 7 people. It's unlikely that all of them are like this." However, when one sniper after another was found and shot down by Feng Zhao, the audience that had initially laughed at the challengers fell silent. The chat room and comments section of the live broadcast platform became much quieter. 1 clumsy, 2 clumsy. Could it be that these challengers were all clumsy? They were all staring at the live broadcast. They had eyes and could see the standards of these people. Although these challengers could not be considered the best, they were still worthy of their respective continents' rankings. No matter what, they were considered above average in the esports circles and were better than most gamers. However, they were still found and kicked out one by one. Feng Zhao did not move, but once he moved, he could not stop. Even the system's monitoring system might not be able to completely capture his figure. Most of the time, it could only catch a flash of a shadow, like a ghost. I kind of believe that Feng Zhao is alive after 500 years. If not for the monitoring system following Feng Zhao, if it were me, even if he walked right up to me, I might not be able to detect him. This was also why everyone had always thought that alive after 500 years was a member of the Special Forces or a veteran with actual combat experience. Many of the videos that had been released proved that he was different from ordinary gamers. Whether it was his concealment techniques, his quick movements and precise shooting, or his radar-like perception, if this was in real life, he would be at a completely special level. Even the Rongzhou players from the military continent could not refute this. And even the Rongzhou esports players who prided themselves on being well-trained, nimble, and skilled could not achieve this level of skill in the live broadcast. Bang! Another gunshot rang out. The 9th challenger was eliminated. Looking at the time, it was 8 minutes and 3 seconds. "He's really merciless," someone lamented. The members of the Silverlight team saw this lamentation and secretly curled their lips. This was already merciless? That's already a lot of mercy. Do you know how he treated us back then? So what if he got shot? Have you ever experienced being beaten up and then being shot? As a sniper, so what if you were shot from 10 meters away? At least he gave you some face. Have you ever experienced the sullen feeling of having a gun pointed at your head and killing you? Have you ever experienced the pain of being kicked offline? They would never tell anyone about that bloody history. Just thinking about it made them feel heavy. The difference in ability was too great, so much so that after joining Silverlight, they did not even have the courage to resist. However, seeing the similar experiences of these challengers, they felt a little better. When they thought about the wager they had placed before, the members of the Silverlight team relaxed. When those challengers went offline and exited their gaming pods, they had blank expressions on their faces. They had no idea why they had suddenly been killed. They only found out after watching the replay online. They had not lost unjustly. In previous exchanges, with such a large map and the composition of the players, it would have taken at least 20 to 30 minutes, right? But now, was the time compressed to less than 10 minutes? Did Fang Zhao really not use a radar or any other auxiliary equipment? Probably not. Didn't the Fiery Bird people say not to use it? Besides, even if you used it, could you do what he did? Nope. As someone who was born and raised in District 79, Big Bro can tell you. Everyone who fled with the Silverlight team knows that a 500-year-old god is more useful than an alarm. What's the theory behind that? A science student asked. Probably the same theory as the tomb guards. They are born with cheats. Tomb guards were widely known for their intuition, which was even more sensitive and accurate than detection equipment, as well as their exceptional perception of danger. Now that you put it that way, it seems to be true. Don't talk about that. Quick, look, there's only one left. At this moment, the remaining challenger was also feeling pressured. In his hands was a large caliber sniper rifle. Not to mention the 500-meter range of this exchange match. Even if the circular area of the map was doubled, he would still be able to snipe and kill someone from a kilometer away. As long as the opponent showed his head, he had the confidence to finish him off. Whether the opponent was hiding behind a window, behind a car, or even behind a wall, he would kill them all the same. However, he had not even caught a glimpse of Fang Zhao's shadow. He could only hear gunshots ringing out from time to time. Each time only 1 or 2 shots rang out, and every time a gunshot rang out, the system would notify him that another player had gone offline. His position was an excellent sniping point, but he had only heard gunshots or seen the silhouettes of other challengers. He had yet to see Fang Zhao. He had always had a good grasp of his target's position, but now he felt like he was in a fog. Couldn't find him, couldn't figure it out, couldn't grasp it at all. Where exactly was he? Suddenly, a chill ran up his spine and stimulated his sensitive nerves. His body stiffened, and his eyes moved away from the sniper scope. His face was still filled with shock. He wanted to turn around to look, but he didn't have the chance. Bang! The 10th challenger went offline. On the screen of the live broadcast, all 10 avatars turned dark. The timer stopped. 9 minutes and 17 seconds. He really kept it within 10 points. This fast? A gamer watching the live broadcast had not even finished his bowl of rice when the exchange match ended. If he didn't have this speed, he wouldn't have been able to dominate the global leaderboards until now. Convinced. Appraisal complete. Fang Zhao is alive after 500 years without a doubt. Now, I really believe that he is alive after 500 years. Speaking of which, there will be an auction tomorrow, right? According to previous year's arrangements, the auction will be held on the 3rd day. Yes, the official website did mention it, but it didn't say what items will be auctioned. As the number 1 on the leaderboards, Fang Zhao will surely bring out items to auction. I wonder what he will bring out. Every year, there would be an auction at Fiery Bird's annual conference. The welfare and benefits of the new era were better. As long as one was willing to work hard and contribute, one would be able to survive. Even orphans would receive help from relevant institutions before they reached adulthood. The batch of people from the founding era had all walked out of desperate situations. As the descendants of the founding era's pioneers, The people of the new era did not think of themselves as useless. Unless they were sick to the point that their brains could not function properly, even if they did not have a healthy body, as long as their brains were normal, they could still make a living. Thus, in the new era, the percentage of people doing charity was much lower. The money from Fiery Bird's auctions was not for their own use. Instead, it was all invested in military construction. This planet had yet to recover from its 100 years of trauma, so there would not be excessive mining. However, development required energy, which was why there were extraterrestrial explorations and the mining of energy and mineral deposits. Human resources, material requirements, machinery research and upgrading, and all these required huge military expenditures. Many people who had served knew that mining on an extraterrestrial planet was really tough and especially tiring. Thus, sometimes, on special occasions, if there was a donation drive, they would donate money to the military expenditures option. Some large enterprises, famous celebrities, tycoons, and so on would also donate money. Whether it was for show or if they really wanted to contribute, this process could not be avoided. Every sum of money from Fiery Bird's auctions would be made public and detailed records would be kept. This was also supervised by the relevant departments, so no one would doubt it. Thus, every year, during Fiery Bird's auctions, famous esports athletes would bring out their items, and fans would spend money to bid for them. This was to support their idols, and also to support military construction. They were willing to spend this money. Some players already had ideas about tomorrow's auction. Will Feng Zhao bring out the clothes he is wearing to auction? There are these every year, right? Clothes, pants, and whatnot. He will bring them out to auction, someone guessed. That's just right. Has it been washed? I don't want it washed. I want what he has worn. No washing. What happened to your misophobia? I fed it to the dogs. Previously, I scolded Feng Zhao too harshly. No matter what he brings out for auction tomorrow, I will bid for it as atonement. Everyone, don't fight with me, a Huangzhou gamer said. Chapter 170. As the opening match of the exchange match, it had ended in less than 10 minutes. For many people who like to watch videos while eating, it was indeed too short. In the past, they could finish a match in 3 minutes. Now, they had to eat for at least half an hour, just enough time to finish watching the match. Watching competition videos while eating was something many gamers like to do. But today's opening match had actually ended so quickly. After it ended, the discussions online were also very intense. Some were analyzing the techniques of this exchange match, while others were guessing how many of the 10 contestants had been substituted. Although there had been quite a few challengers who had uploaded videos when the challengers had been announced yesterday, as long as they had not logged into the game for a live broadcast, it was possible that there had been a last-minute substitution. However, regardless of whether there had been a substitution or not, the purpose of this exchange match had already been achieved. No one doubted Feng Zhao's identity as alive after 500 years. Even if there were still doubters, it was only a small minority. Most gamers had already accepted this fact. On a certain floor of the hotel, Lizhou's wireless network team. A young man who had just come out of his gaming capsule had a look of astonishment and bewilderment on his face. He had been the last of the 10 challengers to log off. However, after seeing the person sitting in front of him, the young man hurriedly restrained his expression and said guiltily, "Apologies, senior young master. I wasn't able to kill him." Seated in a chair, Zero Renault had a pensive look on his face. "I feel that you should have used a 10th generation console." Feng Zhao used a 10th generation console. The 10th generation sounds better than the 9th generation console, but it's a pity that my 10th generation console was left in Lizhou. Senior young master, this has nothing to do with the console. Besides, I'm better at adapting to the 9th generation than the 10th generation. Just a little bit more. Zero angrily slapped the armrest of his chair. That person had a helpless look on his face. Just as he was about to say, "Senior young master, that really wasn't just a little bit more," he heard Zero say. "Just a little bit more, and you could have fired a shot. It doesn't matter whether you hit or not. I bought an account and got you such an awe-inspiring sniper rifle, but you actually didn't fire a single shot. It would be very embarrassing for me." "Apologies, senior young master. The young man hung his head. This was all he could say. It really wasn't that he didn't want to fire. It was that he hadn't even seen a strand of hair. He suspected that Feng Zhao had already sensed his position from the start and had intentionally avoided him. Zero's expression changed several times before he suddenly said, "How much would it cost to poach Feng Zhao from Silver Wing?" The agent rejected him mercilessly. "Just give up." Unlike Silver Wing, which was prepared to go all out, as Zero's agent, he was well aware of Zero's character. Wireless Media was prepared to leave after one round. He also believed that Zero's passion for esports would not last long. Since they were just playing around, why did they have to spend so much money to poach him? It was one thing to poach others. To others, it might be a high price, but to them, it might not be the case. But if they really wanted to poach Feng Zhao, they would have to pay a really high price. If he poached them, he would have to operate for a longer period of time. He did not know when he would be able to recoup his capital. He would not do such a thing. On the other floor of the hotel, where the 2S club team was located, they had just finished watching a short exchange match. It should have been full of discussion, but now it was very quiet. They were both Yinzhou esports teams, but up until now, they had not faced anyone from Silverlight. The two teams did not have a good relationship, so there would not be any exchange matches or practice matches. Thus, 2S's upper echelons wanted to use this opportunity to test out the strength of the famous alive after 500 years. Originally, they had wanted to snatch a spot, but unfortunately, they had not been able to buy one. Based on the game's progress and the maps that had been released, they might have to wait a long time before they could meet anyone from Silverlight. Previously, they had been regretful that they had missed the opportunity to exchange blows with Alive after 500 years, but now, they were rejoicing. Even if they managed to snatch a spot to enter this exchange match, they would probably end up like the other 10 challengers. Once news got out, they would also lose face. Didn't they see that the internet was currently discussing the identities of the 10 challengers? With such a person around, Yinzhou will be lively in the future, a Yinzhou gaming critic said. This put a lot of pressure on Yinzhou's big 5 esports clubs. As long as Feng Zhao was around, perhaps the balance could really be broken. At the same time, the team from Zebra Esports Club, which was ranked 10th in Yinzhou, was in a terrible mood. Not mentioning the incident at the nightclub earlier, when they had first arrived at the hotel, they had wanted to borrow Zero Renault's hand to test the Silverlight team. They had not expected Zero to turn around and sell them out. The faces of the few people involved were ashen. They knew that Silver Wing held a grudge and would not let this matter slide so easily. They had not made any moves now because their focus was still on Firebird's annual conference. Once the conference ended, Silver Wing's revenge would come. Making a move on other people was fine, but to make a move on an important member of a team, then Silver Wing would really go all out. No wonder Silver Wing's revenge had been so ruthless during the nightclub incident. Silver Wing had always been like this. If you played with public opinion, they would play with it. If you stirred up trouble, they would do the same. Previously, 2 of Zebra Esports Club's higher-ups had hired people to make a move on Feng Zhao. After that, of the 2 Zebra Esports Club higher-ups who were involved, one was hospitalized and the other resigned. The Zebra Esports Club higher-up who was still lying in the hospital was filled with regret. If he had known earlier that Feng Zhao was alive after 500 years, he would not have made a move on Feng Zhao even if he had 10 guts. On the 62nd floor, over at the Silverlight team's side, Wayne was very happy. He was excitedly saying something to someone, probably discussing their future plans. As for Feng Zhao, he actually had nothing to be excited about. He was a person whose mental age was over 100 years old. He was different from others, and beating those people was nothing to brag about. Because of the opening exchange match, among the esports players from every continent, there were some who wanted to give up, but there were also some who wanted to compete with Feng Zhao. Unfortunately, after the opening exchange match, they could not find Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao was invited to Firebird's headquarters by Tang Can. The engineers were preparing to conduct another round of measurements. They needed sufficient data to prove the success of the 10th generation console. After bringing Feng Zhao over, Tang Can left. He had too many things to do, so he could not keep watch. Fang Zhao cooperated with the engineers to conduct a portion of the experiments. After that, he rested at one side and watched the engineers analyze the data. A hale and hearty old engineer with grizzled hair came over and sat down beside Fang Zhao. He was the chief engineer here, Chao, Kansas. Most of the people here had received guidance from Chao Kan, so everyone was used to calling him Director Chao. Chao Kan expressed a strong interest in Fang Zhao. In my estimation, among the 100 people using the 10th generation console, there would not be anyone who could reach an adaptability value of 98 within 2 years. Who would have thought that in just 3 months, you would actually reach 99? Chao Kan smiled amiably at Fang Zhao. Little friend, are you interested in working at Fiery Bird's headquarters? Fang Zhao looked at Chao Kan without saying a word. Little friend? His age from his previous life, and this life was actually about the same age as the person in front of him. Seeing that Fang Zhao did not respond, Chao Kan sighed. Forget it. You still have your own path to walk. I heard that your profession is actually composition? Composing? Heh, interesting. This can be a new topic of research. Is the brain of you composers more active than the average person? Maybe, Fang Zhao replied. As Chao Kan chatted with Fang Zhao, his hands did not stop moving. His fingers flew up as he searched for Fang Zhao's personal information online. Chao Kan suddenly looked at Fang Zhao suspiciously. You haven't completed your military service? No. Then you are in for some trouble. Chao Kan showed Fang Zhao a few trending entertainment news articles. You are being watched. Fang Zhao scanned through them. Those entertainment reporters had finally found out that he had not completed his military service. Actually, at the start, those entertainment reporters had wanted to find out why Fang Zhao's marksmanship was so good and why he was so agile. Since he did not come from a special department, it was very likely that it had something to do with his military service. Indeed, some people would come into contact with all sorts of firearms during their military service to improve their body's reflexes. Unexpectedly, upon this investigation, they found out that Fang Zhao had not completed his military service at all. This was not difficult to find out. All they had to do was go to Qian Academy of Music and ask around. From his first year until graduation, Fang Zhao's examination records were available every year. His results were also no secret. Since there were examination records every year and he had not missed a single year in between, that meant that he had not completed his military service during his university years. Entertainment reporters who discovered this information were excited. What they loved to see the most was news of celebrities skipping military service. Fang Zhao had been a hot topic on the internet for the past 2 days. Although his age had not reached the deadline for his military service, it was still a topic that attracted a lot of attention. Furthermore, someone who had not completed his military service but was already so skilled in the game meant that he was either a veteran gamer or definitely had some experience that others did not. In the gaming circles, no one had heard of such a godly person. Naturally, it was the latter. And Fang Zhao's experience was different from others. Everyone coincidentally thought of the Black Streets. Thus, when they refreshed the entertainment news again, a similar headline appeared. Shock! World's #1 actually came from a Black Street. Uncovering the secrets of the Black Streets. Uncovering Fang Zhao's Black Street life. For many people who did not understand the Black Streets, their impression was that they lived in the slums, dirty, messy, and filled with fights and killings all day. All sorts of shady things happened all the time. It was just like the gangs in movies set in the old era. Thus, netizens were enlightened. So he came from a Black Street. No wonder he is so good. Previously, I saw that Fang Zhao had Black Street experience. I originally thought it was just a short-term rental, but it seems like Fang Zhao has lived there for quite some time. Rumor has it that Fang Zhao participated in a gang war in the Black Streets. Is that true? I heard that everyone in the Black Streets has a gun and fights every day. As expected, Fang Zhao has used real guns and fought real battles. Why did I hear that Fang Zhao is the illegitimate son of some Black Street gang boss? There were also some netizens who retorted that the Black Streets were not like what they imagined. How could there be so many gangs? But very quickly, these comments were suppressed. Because last year, there had been a popular online drama that had played out exactly this way. In the minds of the masses of gamers, Fang Zhao had already been labeled as a gang member. Artists were already bursting with inspiration and could not control their hands. With a few swishing strokes, they drew the image of Fang Zhao from the black streets in their minds. Tattoos, black leather jacket, sunglasses, machete, cigarette dangling from his mouth, a row of people standing behind him, subduing dragons and tigers, arrogant, cool, crazy, and domineering. Although Fang Zhao looks like an artistic person now, who knows what he was like in the black streets? Aren't there rumors that Fang Zhao used to be very cold? Maybe he was like this in the past. Right, there are those scars in the game. Maybe he used to have them on his face, scars from a gang war, but they were later removed by medical means. The more gamers thought about it, the more they felt this was the case. Very quickly, this new image began to circulate among gamers. Looking at his new image, Fang Zhao, Yinzhou, Yinbei Retirement Facility. Smack. The watering can that was used to water the plants was smashed to the ground. Utter nonsense. Great-grandfather Fang was so angry that his beard trembled. Black streets are not the same as gangs. These people are really spouting nonsense. This. What kind of image is this? Great-grandmother Fang sighed. These youngsters have watched too many bad dramas. What are they thinking about all day? What gang illegitimate child? That's simply slander. Spreading rumors and causing trouble. No, I have to talk to that Zhao kid. He has to clarify this matter. If we let this bunch of people carry on, who knows what the consequences will be? Although great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fang did not know what Fang Zhao's life was like in the black streets, they believed that their great-grandson would not be like the rumors online and be involved in some gang war. Fang Zhao, who was browsing the news, received a call from great-grandfather Fang from Yinbei. All right, I will clarify tomorrow. The company is already making preparations. We will definitely clarify everything tomorrow. No need. There is really no need for you to make an appearance. Great-grandfather Fang really wanted to personally explain on Fang Zhao's behalf. Although his local influence was nothing on a global scale, if he could help Fang Zhao clear up the rumors, he was willing to make an appearance. They chatted for half an hour. It was rare for great-grandfather Fang to have so much to say. After ending the call, Fang Zhao received a call from Wayne. Silver Wing would control the rumors online, but they would not completely stop them. After all, where there was discussion, there was popularity. Everything is ready. During tomorrow's auction, you can use this opportunity to explain and announce your temporary withdrawal from the team to prepare for military service. Wayne was afraid that Fang Zhao would be affected by the slanderous and abusive comments online. Those comments might not be made by gamers. It should be the influence of some rival companies. They can't wait to squeeze you out. Now, all you need to do is wait for the best opportunity. Stay calm and don't rush it. Chapter 171. By the time Fang Zhao left Fiery Bird's R&D department, it was already quite late. Fang Zhao headed straight back to his hotel to rest. The buzz online did not affect Fang Zhao, but the people he met along the way all looked at him curiously. Some even asked if he really had a triad family background. Rumors online ranged from a Blackstreet gang, to the illegitimate son of a gang boss, to his family's gangster history, to speculations about whether or not Fang Zhao had killed anyone. In this world, there were always people who liked to speculate with evil intentions. Furthermore, the people behind all of this wanted nothing more than to pour more black water on Fang Zhao. It would be best if they could use this opportunity to squeeze Fang Zhao out of this circle. Even if they couldn't squeeze him out, they could at least cause some damage to his reputation and popularity. After all, Fang Zhao's name had been too popular in the gaming circles for the past 2 days. He had stolen the limelight for this year's annual meeting. Just look at the discussion topics in the major gaming forums. All sorts of topics regarding Fang Zhao, be it technical posts or gossip posts, accounted for more than half of the total topics. Rumors abounded when one became popular. Fans who were more rational were waiting anxiously, while hot-tempered fans were arguing online. Those who supported Fang Zhao and those who criticized Fang Zhao were arguing nonstop. Silver Wing officials did not make a clear statement. They only asked everyone to wait. Fang Zhao would give everyone an explanation tomorrow. The group of people had finally waited for the third day of Fiery Bird's annual gala. Gaming fans from all over the world, regardless of time zone, were all waiting in front of their screens, especially those fans who had planned to bid for their idol's items. They had long prepared their funds and were waiting. And on this day, the topic that received the most attention was naturally Feng Zhao. Silver Wing had officially said that Feng Zhao would give an explanation today. The media was also rubbing their hands in glee, waiting for Feng Zhao to release more information so they could make follow-up arrangements. It was the same hall on the day of the awards ceremony. Just like in previous years, the first item to be auctioned would definitely be Fiery Bird's own items. Fiery Bird fans from all over the world would be waiting anxiously in front of their screens. Even if they could not afford it, they would still be able to watch it and have more topics to discuss. Many people guessed that this year, Fiery Bird would directly auction off a 10th generation console. Gaming fans who were not part of the first batch of 100 users and had some assets were all waiting to fight for it. However, what Fiery Bird had released was a first-generation mech. It was Fiery Bird's first-generation Morning Star. 100 years ago, our Fiery Bird dabbled in gaming. 90 years ago, the first Fiery Bird game console was born. It was named Venus. On stage, Tankin narrated the history of Fiery Bird's games and gaming consoles with great emotion. For gamers, the value of a game console was determined by the people who had used it. For example, the Fiery Bird 5th generation console used by an esports god 50 years ago had been sold for a high price 2 years ago, more than double the price the collector had paid for it. Another thing that could attract game fans and fetch a high price was emotions. Obviously, there was no 10th generation console, but the nostalgia for the original console was still quite strong, especially for gaming fans over 100 years old. They had deep feelings for the original console. During the auction of the first-generation console, Fiery Bird's chairman, major shareholders, and a few of the company's top executives had come to support. That first-generation console had an engraving. It was an inscription from the previous chairman of Fiery Bird. "Don't forget your original intention and forge ahead." Looking at the enlarged inscription on the screen, Feng Zhao asked Jinro, "What is Fiery Bird's original intention?" As a veteran gamer who had been in the gaming circles for many years, Jinro was stumped by this question. He thought for a bit and said, "Perhaps it is to make the company bigger and better and then manufacture the best game consoles and games?" In the end, this first-generation console was won by a 130-year-old entrepreneur for a high price of $60 million. Before the release of Battle of the Century, the 10th generation console had already been hyped up to $60 million. On the third day of the game's release, it had been hyped up to $80 million. Now, it was rushing to over $100 million. Naturally, the first-generation console could not compare to the 10th generation console, but the cost and technical content of the first-generation console was there. Being able to fetch such a high price was already not easy. The chips and various components used in the first-generation console had long been discontinued. Gamers had long thrown the game consoles from back in the day to who knew where. Many first-generation consoles had already been recycled as trash. Even if there were some that had been preserved, not every first-generation console could fetch such a high price. Collecting such a machine required meticulous maintenance, which took up a lot of time and effort. The maintenance costs were not low, and most people would not be willing to put in the effort. Furthermore, this first-generation console still had the inscription of the deceased chairman. This was not something that other first-generation consoles could compare to. Perhaps in a few decades, as long as this machine was maintained well, it could be resold for a record price. After the first-generation console was auctioned off, the people discussing the matter gradually calmed down. They were waiting for the second person that they had been anticipating to go on stage. Feng Zhao walked on stage in the formal attire that Silver Wing had prepared for him. He did not wear the Silverlight team's uniform. Seeing this, many people had an idea. Indeed, the item that Feng Zhao had brought out for auction was his team uniform. There was nothing surprising about it. It was within expectations. When the team uniform was brought out, not many people revealed astonished expressions. Actually, auctioning off the team uniform was something that Silver Wing had considered for a long time before deciding on. At the start, Wayne had wanted to suggest that Feng Zhao bring out something that would attract more attention, such as music scores or manuscripts, but after thinking about it, he felt that it was not appropriate. Feng Zhao might be quite popular now, but whether it was in the gaming circles or in the composing circles, he was still a newcomer. There was no need to talk about the gaming circles, but the main issue was the composing circles. This might incur the displeasure of many veteran composers. More conservative academics might feel that this sort of behavior was disrespectful to the works. Auctioning music scores in the gaming circles? Could those gamers understand music scores? Of course not. There were too few gamers with a professional foundation. For the majority of gamers, music scores were on the same level as Oracle Bone scripts. In any case, when placed in front of them, it was the same. They could not understand it. And for some sensitive composers, they would think, by auctioning off your music scores for a high price, are you trying to prove that you are better than others? Can artistic attainments be measured purely by auction value? They were not in the same circles and had no accumulated experience. From the perspective of a newcomer, Wayne ultimately still suggested that Feng Zhao be like everyone else and auction off his own clothes. This was definitely not wrong. Some people noticed that on the chest area of the jacket that Feng Zhao had taken out, there was a badge. That was the captain's badge. Looking at the close-up on the big screen, other than the tree-shaped team emblem, there was also Feng Zhao's name engraved on the badge. Yesterday, during the live broadcast of the exchange match, Feng Zhao had worn this badge for the first time in public. It was just that the cameras had not given him a close-up. Auctioning off the team uniform to give away the badge. Someone online commented, "This has never happened before, right? In the past, only the team uniform was auctioned off, not the badge." Just as everyone was discussing, Feng Zhao, who was standing on the stage, spoke. "I received a call from my great-grandfather yesterday. The old man saw those rumors online and was very angry. When they heard Feng Zhao mention great-grandfather, some people pricked up their ears. They wanted to know where this great-grandfather of Feng Zhao's was from. Was he from the rumored Blackstreet gang?" As if he knew what everyone was thinking, Feng Zhao displayed a photo on the big screen behind him. It was a box filled with neatly arranged military medals. The buzz of discussion in the conference hall died down in an instant. "The old man insisted that I post these. These are the military medals that my great-grandfather and great-grandmother received." The two elders served on the Sirius. The Sirius, one of the pioneers of space exploration in the new era, had already been decommissioned, but it had never disappeared in various films and was well known by people. The medal itself represented the significance of an era. In the online forum, the gaming fans who saw this scene were also surprised. Served on a warship? That sounds so cool. Cool my ass. Serving on a warship is even more tiring than mining, and it's even more dangerous. Not to mention the first batch of warships. Not many of the people who served on them survived, right? Based on these medals, Feng Zhao's great-grandfather was at least at the regimental rank. He definitely had the right to carry a gun, and it might even be a rare gun model. I'm jealous. Feng Zhao must have played with those guns before. No matter what, at least it proves that Feng Zhao's family isn't a gang. This time, no one linked Feng Zhao or his family to gangs that might or might not exist. No matter what they were thinking or whether they still had doubts, they would not say it out loud. Just this box of military medals and the fact that he had served on the Sirius was enough for them to show their respect to the old man. As for whether Feng Zhao really had nothing to do with the mafia or if he had killed anyone, they could only rely on evidence. Without evidence, they didn't dare spout nonsense. If they weren't careful, they might get into trouble. It would have been fine if Feng Zhao's great-grandfather had passed away, but the two elders were still alive and well. If they were to be held accountable, they would be in deep trouble. Feng Zhao ignored everyone's reaction and continued. When I visited the two elders during Memorial Day last year, I discussed military service with them. But because of work arrangements, I didn't apply for military service last year. But this year, I have decided to apply for the April term. Military service required one to apply for 2 periods a year, April and October. What Feng Zhao meant was that he would apply for the April term. What about the game? Not playing anymore? What about the team? Was the number 1 throne going to change hands? The quiet conference hall started buzzing again. Some people were so happy they wanted to jump up and set off firecrackers. They had been racking their brains to squeeze Fang Zhao out. Who would have thought that Fang Zhao would actually be doing his military service? Ha 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 ha. There were also people who regretted that they wouldn't be able to meet Fang Zhao in-game. They wanted to battle him before he started his military service. Fang Zhao paused briefly before continuing. From today onwards, I will temporarily leave Battle of the Century until I return from my military service. Gaming fans were dumbfounded. So soon? Everyone had too many questions they wanted to ask, but Fang Zhao did not continue. He didn't need to say too much. After all, this was Fiery Bird's auction, not his personal meet and greet. Time was limited. After a few key points were briefly mentioned, the rest would naturally be explained by Silver Wings people. Fang Zhao was temporarily withdrawing. Even if he returned from his military service, the captain's position might not be handed to him. That meant that in the short term, there would only be one captain badge on this set of team uniforms. Thus, when the auction started, the numbers shot up. On the big screen, the starting bid jumped from 10,000 to 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, 800,000. Chapter 172. As Silver Wings' first auction after entering the esports scene, Wayne attached great importance to it. Because they had sufficient funds, they had used the best materials when making the team uniforms. Yesterday, when preparing Fang Zhao's set of clothes, Wayne had personally watched as they were washed and tidied up before wiping the captain's badge clean and putting it on. It could be said that even if this uniform was put up for sale in a shop now, it would not be sold for a low price. The cost of the uniform was at least 2,000 to 3,000, and the starting bid was 10,000. 3 times the price was not considered high. And according to Wayne's estimates, if this uniform was auctioned here, it would probably fetch about 300,000 to 500,000. This was based on previous outstanding examples, auctioned when Fang Zhao was at the peak of his popularity. If no one bid, Wayne would let Silver Wings' internal staff bid, manipulating things in the dark to raise the price. Building momentum, using one's own people to secretly manipulate things was a common trick used by esports clubs. They had to look good on their faces and for Wayne. If he did not raise it to 1,000,000 or 800,000, he would be letting down Silver Wings' reputation. But now, Wayne's mouth was agape, but he did not make a sound. He just stared blankly at the continuously jumping numbers on the big screen. 800,000. 1,000,000. 1. 5,000,000. 2. 3,000,000. Looking at the bidders again, some had IDs displayed, while others were anonymous. In online auctions, some bidders were not willing to reveal their personal information, so they would set up anonymous settings and hide all information. This was permitted by Fiery Bird. After the 1,000,000 mark, the number of bidders dwindled, and after the 2,000,000 mark, there were basically only 5 or 6 bidders. Even if Fang Zhao had been a hot topic recently and his popularity had risen, he was still a newcomer in the gaming circles. Just a uniform, 300,000 to 500,000 was already a high price, and even the entertainment media would praise it. But now, it had risen so high. Inside the venue, some people looked at the Silverlight team with meaningful gazes. For the sake of hype, Silver Wing was really going all out. Wayne's face was stiff. He hung his head and sent a message to the people operating in the dark. Enough. We've hyped it too much. Hyping it properly was called operation. Overhyping it would be bad. This bunch of people were really unprofessional. The gazes of the surrounding people made Wayne, who prided himself on being thick-skinned, feel a burning sensation. However, the people operating in the dark also felt wronged. No, it really wasn't us hyping it. We simply didn't have the chance to make a move. It's not our own people who are raising the price? Wayne was truly astonished. Could it really be Fang Zhao's fanatical fans bidding? Looking at the number on the big screen, the price had already exceeded 2.7 and was rushing towards 3,000,000. At this moment, there were only 3 people who were still active. Wayne leaned toward Fang Zhao and asked in a low voice, "Do you know that little leaf who is currently participating in the auction?" "Yes," Fang Zhao replied. "Oh, who is it?" Wayne was curious. Ming Tsong. Wayne. The former principal of Chi-En Academy? I just received a message from him saying that his son, Mingyi, is recovering well. He plans to bid for this set of clothes as a Memorial Day gift for Mingyi, Fang Zhao explained. I see. Wayne nodded. If it was Ming Song, he could understand. Thanks to Fang Zhao's composing of the 100-Year Period of Destruction series, Ming Song's son had fortunately found a cure for his illness. It was said that the treatment was quite effective, and Ming Song had always been very grateful to Fang Zhao. Regardless of whether Fang Zhao was really buying a gift for Mingyi, or simply using this matter to help, or both, Wayne was happy to see it. What about not old yet? Do you know him? Wayne asked Fang Zhao about the other ID still participating in the auction. My great-grandfather, Fang Zhao replied. Old Master Fang Zhao had said he would support him. Old Master Fang Zhao is really awesome, Wayne said as the flesh on his face twitched. The 3 IDs still participating in the auction were Little Leaf, Not Old Yet, and Anonymous. The first 2 IDs were already known, so only the Anonymous was left. Anonymous, do you know who it is? Wayne asked. No idea. Fang Zhao was also puzzled. He really didn't know. Just as Wayne and Fang Zhao were talking, the numbers on the screen changed again. Many people in the auction hall couldn't help but let out low gasps. Looking up, the price on the screen suddenly jumped to 5 million after Little Leaf bid 3 million. The bidder is anonymous. It was just a team uniform. It wasn't like it was an out-of-print item or a relic of some great master who had passed away. It was just the uniform of a newcomer who had just become popular. Even though there was the captain's badge and Fang Zhao's temporary absence from the competition scene, it shouldn't have been so ridiculously high. Yes, it was ridiculously high. A publicity stunt by Silverwing? Otherwise, who would fork out 5 million to buy a piece of clothing? I don't know which idiot actually spent 5 million to buy such an ordinary piece of clothing. Zero had just complained to his agent when he raised his head and realized that everyone around him was looking at him. It was rare for his brain to light up. He understood the meaning behind those people's gazes. What are you looking at me for? It's not like I was the one who made the bid. Zero was so angry that he raised his voice slightly. It was no wonder everyone looked at him this way. In many people's hearts, Zero had always been fond of throwing money at people. Yesterday, this fellow had even said in the leisure area that he wanted to poach Fang Zhao from Silverwing to the Wireless Esports Club. And that style of directly jumping from 3 million to 5 million was indeed something someone like Zero would do. After Zero's outburst, no one doubted him anymore. Even though Zero had all sorts of problems, he wouldn't lie about this matter. Actually, people familiar with Zero's style also knew that if this young master really wanted to bid, he would not use anonymity. Rather, he would wish for the whole world to know that he was rich and then make a high-profile bid. A living example of a fool with a lot of money. In the end, Fang Zhao's team uniform was sold for a high price of 5 million. This made many people's jaws drop. The internet was already in an uproar. Chat rooms and forums were all abuzz with this. And the conclusion of everyone's discussion was that the person who made such a high bid was either Fang Zhao's fanatical fans or Silverwing's own hype. Most people were inclined towards the second possibility, believing that it was definitely Silverwing's own hype. Internal staff deliberately raised the price. Regardless of whether it was the people in the conference hall or the people watching the live broadcast online, everyone thought so. Even if Silverwing had already publicly stated that they had not participated in the auction internally, no one believed it. This is the highest price ever for an annual conference auction, right? Someone said. Of all the team uniforms auctioned, this is indeed the highest. In the subsequent auctions, although there were also items that exceeded 5 million, those were game consoles. The cost and starting bid were already high. After the auction ended, everyone was still discussing the high price that Fang Zhao's team uniform had been sold for. Many people were thinking that if this was a self-directed play by Silverwing, would it infuriate Firybird? Or would it arouse even more disgust? After all, every esports club had their own internal workings, but such an exaggerated price had never appeared before. Even if it had, Firybird would have placed it on its unwelcome list. There was always a limit to commercial hype. If it went over that limit, it would not be as popular and would have the opposite effect. Wayne was also worried, so after the auction ended, He went to look for the highest-ranking board member of the team and got him to explain things to the relevant personnel of Fiery Bird. However, before Wayne could act, Fiery Bird had issued a statement first, confirming that the anonymous buyer was not someone from Silver Wing but a fan of Feng Zhao's. Some people felt that it was inconceivable. What kind of fanaticism is this to spend so much money to bid for Feng Zhao's team uniform? Maybe the other party is not lacking in money. Or maybe they just want to use this opportunity to invest in military construction. Too bad it's anonymous. I don't know who it is. Feng Zhao was also curious. After the auction ended, he had asked Fiery Bird's personnel, but he had not received an answer. Fiery Bird respected their client's privacy. Forget it. No matter who it is, since they say they're your fans, they will definitely appear in the future. For example, at a fan meeting or something. Wayne was rather open-minded. After all, this was not big news created by them, so he spoke with confidence. As for who exactly had bought the team uniform and what their intentions were, Wayne did not really care. Having been at Silver Wing for so long, he had seen many such situations, so he did not find it strange. If he had to get to the bottom of everything, he would die of exhaustion. On his way back to the hotel, Feng Zhao met Majo's Massiere, the gold medal shooter who had always been ranked second on the individual leaderboards. "Are you really preparing to apply for military service in April?" Massiere asked Feng Zhao. "Yeah, I will apply after Memorial Day," Feng Zhao replied. It was not yet time to apply, but company matters had already been arranged. All he had to do was wait until Memorial Day to apply. Massiere looked at Feng Zhao with a complicated expression and suddenly laughed. "That's fine too. I am also preparing to withdraw for the time being. Without you, there is no meaning in rushing to first place. Besides, compared to games, I still prefer playing with real guns." "Have you played with real guns before?" Massiere asked. "Yes," Feng Zhao replied. "I applied for a membership card at a shooting club in Yenzhou." Feng Zhao had indeed applied for a membership card at a shooting club in Yenzhou and had indeed been there. He had come into contact with some new era firearms there. "That's good. When you have time, go to Majo and I will bring you to the shooting range." Majo's shooting range is the favorite place for global shooting athletes. It occupies the largest area and is the most professional shooting range. Even the most famous shooting range in Huangzhou can't compare to the one in Majo. When Massiere mentioned the Majo shooting range, he subconsciously wore a proud look on his face. The continent of competition, Majo, was a paradise for sports athletes. All right. After adding Massiere as a friend, Feng Zhao headed upstairs. An hour after the auction ended, Massiere posted a new status on his social media platform, announcing that he was temporarily withdrawing from Battle of the Century. He would continue whenever Feng Zhao returned. It just so happened that he also had a match in real life, so he would focus on real competitions. 3 hours after the auction ended, Fiery Bird released a piece of experimental data related to the 10th generation console that Feng Zhao had assisted in, as well as a video of Feng Zhao on the day of the exchange match, allowing the public to see how his adaptability value had soared to 98 and touched 99 several times. Fiery Bird used this to refute the doubts of many in the industry after the 10th generation console had been released. When the 10th generation console had first appeared, a professional had predicted that within 3 years, no gamers would be able to fully adapt to the 10th generation console, and for the 10th generation console to truly enter the market, it would be impossible in the short term. After that, it had been revealed that some esports club members did not really use the 10th generation console. Instead, after using it, they switched to an upgraded version of the 9th generation console, setting the 10th generation console aside and only adapting to it when they had free time. Expensive and unable to fully adapt to gamers, the 10th generation console had been a mistake by Fiery Bird. However, now, for months after the 10th generation console had been released and 3 months after Battle of the Century had been released, there were already people who could truly adapt. Because the user was Feng Zhao, gamers coincidentally had the same thought. If they could raise the 10th generation console's adaptability value to 98, would they be as impressive as Feng Zhao? What kind of experience would an adaptability value of 98 and above be like? Would their judgment and perceptive abilities increase? Would their movements become easier? Would their shooting become more accurate? Similarly, Bruce, The captain of Huangzhou's Phoenix Esports Club's main team, who was also using a 10th generation console and ranked third in the individual rankings, was faced with questions from his teammates and fans. I also don't know. I am only 95, but I feel that I will break through soon. Within a month, it might reach 96. When it reaches 98, I will let you all know. As for gamers who did not own a 10th generation console, those who had the means and were well off were all wondering if they should get one back to try it out. Who knew if they were talented enough and could adapt in a short time? Of course, there were also people who were not passionate about gaming and felt that this idea was simply crazy. Spending so much money on a gaming console that they did not know if it would be able to adapt well was really a wastrel. Wasn't it just a gaming console? Treating it as a collector's item and complaining about the high maintenance costs? Why would they go to the trouble of buying the 10th generation console instead of the more affordable and easier to adapt 9th generation console? Even if the 10th generation console went on sale for the second time, there would not be many buyers, not to mention truly opening the market. While discussions were going on online, over at the Silverlight team, the team members were already packing their things. Fiery Bird's annual conference had already ended, and they would return to Yinzhou early the next morning. Wayne, bring them back to Yinzhou tomorrow. I will make a trip to Muzhou before returning, Fang Zhao told Wayne, who had just finished a call. What are you going to Muzhou for? Wayne's originally smiling face became nervous in an instant. He was worried that there were teams in Muzhou that wanted to poach Fang Zhao. This time, there were quite a few teams that had expressed their desire to poach Fang Zhao. Upon hearing that Fang Zhao was going to Muzhou, he thought that Fang Zhao had already made contact with teams there and was going over to have in-depth exchanges. I am going over to fetch the dog, Fang Zhao replied. Oh, right, that champion dog of yours is still herding sheep in Muzhou. Wayne heaved a sigh of relief. Memorial Day was approaching, and people in Muzhou also had to celebrate it. Furthermore, Muzhou people viewed Memorial Day as especially important. The Su family would basically all return to Qingqing, and Su Ho would not stay on the farm. Fang Zhao decided to fetch Curly Hair back to Yinzhou first. Then how will you go over? Do you need me to help you contact a flying transport? Wayne asked. No need. The boss of Muzhou's Four Elephants Food Company, Su Feng, is in Huangzhou. I just got in touch with him. He will also be returning to Muzhou tomorrow. I will fly directly to Muzhou's Dongshan farm with him. How many days will you be gone? Wayne asked. 3 or 4 days, depending on the situation. Then brings Wei Yu along. You must be careful. Wayne warned Fang Zhao. You can be considered a well-known celebrity now. Many people recognize you. Put on a disguise before heading out. Also, don't stay too long in Muzhou. Before Memorial Day, the company has arranged for an interview with the Silverlight team. Now that your popularity is flourishing, go back earlier to record. Otherwise, if too much time passes, everyone will forget about you. The memory of the internet is sometimes very short. After repeatedly exhorting Fang Zhao, Wayne thought about how to continuously stir up topics during the few days Fang Zhao was in Muzhou and maintain his popularity so that fans would not forget about Fang Zhao too quickly. Chapter 173. Fang Zhao and Zui Yu boarded Su Feng's flying transport the next day and headed to Muzhou together. For Elephant's food was doing rather well. The influence of Polar Light's image had risen once again because of the Silverlight team and Fang Zhao, who was #1 on the leaderboards. For Elephant's food sales were slightly better than other Muzhou brands, and it was rather popular among young people. After all, among young people, there were more people who played games or paid attention to gaming circles. This year's Memorial Day gifts have been sent out. Your silver wing will definitely not be lacking. It will be delivered tomorrow. It just so happens that someone from your department has received it. Su Feng's Memorial Day gifts this year were even more lavish than last year's. Since the profits were good, he naturally would not be stingy. After lamenting the fact that Fang Zhao was alive after 500 years and the expensive team uniform, Su Feng brought up the matter of Dongshan Farm. Oh right, that kid Su Ho got beaten up by his dad recently, Su Feng said with a laugh. Every once in a while, Su Ho would update Fang Zhao on his progress, and Fang Zhao had some understanding of the current state of the farm. However, Su Ho had not sent him any video calls. He had only sent some text messages, and he did not turn on video mode during calls. Quarrel? Fang Zhao asked. The messy affairs of the Su family were no secret. Muzhou's entertainment reporters loved to report on the various struggles of the Su family. Yeah, Su Ho fought with his half-brother. Guess what the outcome was? Su Feng grinned widely. Without waiting for Fang Zhao to reply, he continued. I heard that neither side brought bodyguards, but the other side had 2 people. One was about the same age as Su Ho, and the other was a few years older. Su Ho was slightly injured, but the other 2 were more seriously injured. Because Su Ho brought a dog. Ha 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 ha. Su Feng rocked back and forth in laughter, almost falling off his chair. He brought that little curly hair of yours. No wonder he's a champion dog. His battle prowess is not small. As they spoke, the flying transport had already arrived at Dongshan Farm and landed on the tarmac. Su Ho, who had received the news, was already waiting there. Su Ho's face no longer bore any traces of being beaten up by his dad. He had been treated. Curly hair ran over like the wind and circled Fang Zhao, wagging his tail vigorously and whining to express his excitement at seeing Fang Zhao. You're in good spirits. Fang Zhao picked Curly Hair up to take a look. Curly Hair had quite a bit of grass stuck to him, but he could tell that he had taken care of it. The areas near the skin were still very clean. Curly Hair had probably been playing in the underbrush earlier. Master Zhao, long time no see. Su Ho's tone was agitated. In the past, Fang Zhao had only been his business partner, someone who had helped him out of his predicament. Su Ho was very grateful, but now, he truly worshipped Fang Zhao. Su Ho was not old enough to log into Battle of the Century, but he had always been paying attention to gaming news. When Fang Zhao had revealed his identity as alive after 500 years, Su Ho had also been shocked. After the shock, he had been excited. It was difficult for others to even meet alive after 500 years, but he called Fang Zhao every week, even though it was just to talk about the farm. Previously, he had only known about the changes to the farm through videos. Now that Fang Zhao was here, Su Ho led the way and told Fang Zhao which plots of land would be used for what purposes. The soil has been improved, and the seeds planted there have already grown. They are growing well, and will be able to survive the winter. There is no need to deliberately protect them from the cold. As for that side, it is still empty. When spring comes, a new batch of seeds will be planted. They were given to me by my older brother and were cultivated in the space laboratory. Actually, they have been cultivated for a long time, but they have been suppressed all these years to see if their fruits are safe. But now, it has been confirmed that they can be planted. What I have is the first batch. Su Ho introduced the various parts of the farm to Fang Zhao in a practiced manner. The current Dongshan farm had fields, pastures, and expanded houses for the workers to live in. Su Ho was no longer the little fatty who did not know anything. He had put in a lot of effort into farming. As he watched, a pack of dogs barked and ran over. The few large dogs leading the pack looked a little familiar to Fang Zhao. They were not from Wu Yi's farm. The few dogs from last year's competition had been returned to Wu Yi. Only Curly Hair was still here. Those are the dogs left behind by the previous farm owner? Fang Zhao asked Su Ho as he looked at the few well-proportioned and energetic dogs that were charging at the front. Yes, those are the ones, Su Ho replied. The dogs that were running closer started barking when they saw the unfamiliar faces of Fang Zhao and Zhuayu. However, after Curly Hair growled, they stopped. They used to be too lazy and unwary. I hired a dog trainer, but it didn't have much of an effect. The trainer said that the dogs were already useless, and no matter how much they were trained, it wouldn't have much effect. However, ever since Curly Hair came, they started to change. Su Ho was in high spirits as he rambled on and on about the dogs to Fang Zhao. Usually, when Su Ho called Fang Zhao, he basically talked about the farm. He had also mentioned the dogs, but he did not go into detail. Now, Su Ho had finally found the opportunity to tell Fang Zhao in detail. This was also what he was most proud of, and he had flaunted it to others many times. Look, even the trainers had given up on the dogs. Weren't they gradually getting better on our farm? Those dogs had indeed been useless in the past. Otherwise, Su Ho would not have needed to borrow Wu Yi's dogs. Now, they were no longer as dispirited as before. They had also let down their guard. At first, they had learned from Curly Hair. When Curly Hair saw strangers and barked, they would follow suit. If they did not bark or barked at the wrong time, Curly Hair would teach them a lesson. Gradually, as time passed, they also understood some simple things. They knew to bark when they saw strangers, selectively bark when they saw acquaintances and strangers, and bark when they did not understand. In any case, if they barked wrongly, the owner would stop them. Although they can't compare to Curly Hair or those dogs on Wu Yi's farm, they are much better than before. They can do some basic guard work. They are also learning how to shepherd. I don't expect them to participate in competitions in the future, but they can do simple guard work. They are considered semi-qualified working dogs. Suho did not have high expectations for them, and he was already very satisfied with their current results. Actually, these dogs had all been cooped up, sleeping when it was time to run, bite, wandering around when it was time to guard, bite, not following the rules when it was time to eat, snatching and overturning the food bowl, bite, excitedly rushing over when he saw a suspicious person, ruthlessly bite. Listening to Suho's words, Feng Zhao felt that Curly Hair was treating these dogs like little brothers and was purely looking for some fun. These few puppies are the ones I told you about. I got someone to buy them and train them for competitions. They are all dogs with champion blood in them. I practically spent all the money I had painstakingly saved up to buy them. Muzhou dogs were expensive, especially the descendants of champion dogs. They were even more expensive. In other continents, some rich kids liked to buy luxury cars when they had money and drive them every day. But in Muzhou, rich kids liked to buy dogs. Even if Su Feng, the boss of 4 Elephants Food, did not participate in sheep herding competitions, he would still buy good-looking dogs. These few puppies on the farm, as well as the puppies that Su Ho had ordered but had yet to arrive on the farm, had spent all the money Su Ho had painstakingly saved up. He had used all the money he had earned from advertising, prize money for competitions, red packets given to him by other members of the Su family, etc. Luckily, with Feng Zhao as an investor, the farm's construction had not stopped. There is no need to do any rodent control this year. There are basically no rodents within the boundaries of our farm. I heard that there used to be quite a number of rabbits and other small wild animals around here, but I have not seen any. Suho continued. He had only thought of this at the last minute and was sighing ruefully. Feng Zhao glanced at Curly Hair, who was at his feet. Curly Hair raised his head and glanced at him. His ears drooped and he averted his gaze. Back at Wu Yi's farm, Curly Hair had caught field mice with Bingo and the other dogs and eaten them. Feng Zhao suspected that all the field mice on the farm had been eaten by Curly Hair. Perhaps the wild rabbits near the farm had also suffered a calamity. Su Ho led Feng Zhao to a newly built courtyard. This was the courtyard that the owner of the farm lived in. This house was specially prepared for Master Zhao. You don't have to worry about not having a place to stay whenever you come, Su Ho said. What's that over there? Feng Zhao pointed to a room in the corner. There was a no-entry sign hanging there. Oh, that's my own gaming room. Oh, right. My dad said he would give me a 10th generation console. Even if it doesn't arrive today, it will definitely arrive tomorrow. Suho seemed to be in a good mood. Suho's father had given a farm to an illegitimate son. Suho's quarrel with his father wasn't just because his father had wrongly accused him of deliberately letting dogs bite his 2 half-brothers, but also because his father had given him a farm. Although it was just a small farm and could not compare to Dongshan Farm or the land he had received as a champion, Suho was still unhappy. After Suho had been beaten up, he had run to the cemetery with his face full of injuries and complained tearfully to Su Mu's grave. The next day, the entertainment news in Muzhou was all about the internal strife of the Su family. People thought they would see an exciting and colorful struggle between the rich and powerful. But very quickly, perhaps because Suho's father had found out the truth about the dog-biting incident and had found his conscience, or because of the public opinion and pressure from within the family, he had given Suho the 10th generation console that Suho had been longing for. After that, Suho received treatment and the injuries on his face were healed. For the time being, he did not go against his father. In the eyes of the Muzhou masses, Suho was an idiot. He was young and ignorant. Indeed, he was childish. His father's level was still higher. A gaming console had been able to settle this internal strife. The majority of Muzhou people did not care about the model of the gaming console. Rather than getting a ridiculously expensive 10th generation console, they might as well buy a 9th generation upgrade. That way, they could play the latest games. The money saved could also be used to buy new seeds or dogs. Among the 12 continents, Muzhou was the continent with the lowest esports standards. It was not that they could not afford to play or did not have the time to play. It was just that compared to crops, land, and dogs, gaming was not that important. It was just a spice to life. Between watching a gaming competition and watching a sheep herding competition, most people would choose the latter. Chapter 174. Regardless of whether it seemed worthwhile to outsiders, at least Su-ho felt that his anger had subsided quite a bit. In any case, he did not expect his old man to go along with him. Quarreling with his old man was just a way to vent his emotions and, at the same time, to express his dissatisfaction. Su-ho now had 2 farms. One was a partnership with Feng Zhao. Dongshan Farm was still in operation. Of course, the farm had only been built for a short time, so it was not very profitable. However, because of the sheep herding championship, it had a certain reputation. Perhaps it would take a few more years for it to recoup its losses. As for the other piece of land he had won from the sheep herding championship, Su-ho also planned to build a farm there. However, that piece of land was currently being held by one of his uncles, Su Feng's father, who said that he would give it to Su-ho when he was of age. It was not that the other party coveted Su-ho's piece of land, but he was worried that with Su-ho's IQ, he would be cheated easily. He would help keep it for now, and in a few years when Su-ho matured and had some experience, the land would be returned to him. Su-ho approved of this. He also knew that he was not smart. If he had not been lucky enough to run into Feng Zhao, he would have suffered a terrible setback. Overall, the Su family was not as chaotic as outsiders thought. Just like the Renault family and Lijiao, they might have been squabbling over trivial matters for a long time, but when it came to important matters, they were still very united. Otherwise, they would not have been able to survive for 500 years. There were people in the Su family who did not like Su-ho, but there were also people who supported him. For example, Su Feng, Su Feng's father, and a few other brothers and sisters who usually teased him but would stand by his side at crucial times. Feng Zhao noticed Curly Hair constantly glancing at the gaming room, so he asked Su-ho, "Can I go in and take a look?" Sure. Su-ho stammered. Su-ho was a little embarrassed. He was afraid that Feng Zhao would laugh at him. In the game room, there was naturally a game console. However, because Su-ho was still young, he could not play many of the popular games. He could only play a few small games to relieve his boredom. The console he used the most was the beginner's console for children. It could not compare to professional gaming equipment, but it had accompanied Su-ho from kindergarten to elementary school and then to middle school. Even though his older brothers and sisters had given him other professional game consoles, Su-ho had the deepest affection for this beginner's console. After coming to Dongshan Farm, he had brought it with him. Originally, Su-ho had intended to wait for the 10th generation console to arrive before letting everyone tour his gaming room, but now that Feng Zhao had asked, he hesitated for a bit before agreeing. Actually, there was nothing shameful about it. Wasn't it just a game console for children? Who had not used it before? Su-ho fished out his keys and opened the door. This room did not have an electronic lock, but when the 10th generation console arrived, Su-ho planned to change the lock. Feng Zhao entered and scanned the various gaming equipment in the room. Most of the gaming helmets were for minors. There were 5 gaming helmets, 4 of which were placed on a shelf and looked like they had not been used for a long time. Only one was placed on a chair in the middle. The design of the helmet was rather cartoonish. There were even some cartoons printed on it. It was simpler and lighter than professional gaming helmets. The beginner's console was a game console used by kindergartners and primary school students in the new era to assist in learning. It was said that it had the effect of developing the brain. However, generally speaking, very few people used beginner's consoles after grade 5. Seeing Feng Zhao holding the beginner's gaming helmet and studying it, Su-ho said sheepishly, "They say that I am too stupid and that I can't continue using the beginner's console to develop my brain. Perhaps my intelligence will increase after using it more." Zuoyu, who was standing guard at the door. "You believe that?" Indeed, your intelligence has not improved. Generally speaking, beginners' consoles were only suitable for children below the age of 10. Older children were basically not suitable for using beginners' consoles. Suho was already in secondary school. Using beginners' consoles had no effect at all. He believed whatever others said. No wonder he was cheated. Suho did not notice Wei Yu's expression. Seeing that Feng Zhao did not laugh at him, he relaxed a little. Actually, I don't play much. I only play it when I'm bored. Can I give it a try?
Feng Zhao asked.
Suho was stunned. He had not expected that Feng Zhao, the #1 user of the 10th generation console, would say such a thing. Sure, but the beginner's console cannot compare to professional gaming consoles, and even more so to the 10th generation console. Master Zhao, you might not be used to it. At this moment, Suho received a call from his younger sister. She said that they were about to reach the farm. Their primary school was on holiday. She had heard that someone was delivering the 10th generation console to Dongshan Farm, so she had tagged along. Suho could not help but smile. He said to Feng Zhao, Master Zhao, you stay here and take a look. I will go and receive you. Go ahead. After Suho left, Zui wanted to peek inside to see how Feng Zhao would use the beginner's console, but when he turned his head, Feng Zhao had already closed the door and locked it. Zuoyu. All right, boss didn't want to be seen using the beginner's console. He could understand. If it had been someone with poor eyesight, they probably wouldn't have been able to keep up with the changes on the screen. However, Feng Zhao could see clearly that Curly Hair's controls were still as accurate as before. There were still no mistakes or misses. The progress bar at the side that showed the score was rising faster and faster, as if it was going to shoot up at an extremely high speed. When the minute was up, Curly Hair didn't immediately exit the game. He just detached himself from the gaming helmet, looked at the score displayed on the screen, and then looked at Feng Zhao. He wagged his tail slowly and waited nervously for Feng Zhao's evaluation. However, before Feng Zhao could say anything, Curly Hair's ears twitched, and he quickly jumped down from the chair. He crouched beside Feng Zhao's feet and looked toward the door. There was a hurried knock on the door. Master Zhao, my 10th generation console is here. Suho's excited voice rang out. Feng Zhao glanced at the screen and still hadn't erased this record. Opening the door, Suho entered, his face beaming with delight. He was about to tell Feng Zhao about his new game console when his gaze landed on the open screen. When he saw the difficulty level, score, and system rating, his eyes widened. I have never received a 2-star evaluation or above when playing this game at the highest difficulty level. Master Zhao is awesome. As expected of the world's #1 point-sweeping demon. You still need a professional engineer. The Fiery Bird branch closest to the farm should send someone over to help you with the installation and debugging, Feng Zhao said. That was how he was at that time. As soon as he received the goods, an engineer would call to make an appointment to do some debugging. You need engineers? Can't I just use it? When Suho heard this, he went online to check. There was only one Fiery Bird branch in Muzhou that could send engineers to debug the 10th generation console, and it was located in Qingqing. When he made an appointment with that branch, the reply was that all the engineers had been sent out today, and the engineers who were in charge of debugging the 10th generation console would only be able to return the next day. Suho was dumbfounded. He had wanted to use it on the spot, but did that mean he couldn't use it today? It can't be used without an engineer? The smile on Suho's face crumbled. Following that, he thought of something and looked at Feng Zhao expectantly. Master Zhao, didn't you use the 10th generation console before? Can you help out with the debugging? I only know some simple things. I can give it a try, Feng Zhao replied. Master Zhao, go ahead and give it a try. It's fine if you don't succeed, Suho said. Making it simple to use is no problem, but we still have to get a professional engineer to come over for the debugging and calibration. No problem. Master Zhao, go ahead and give it a try first. I just want to use it as soon as possible and don't want to play any complicated games. I have made an appointment with an engineer to come over tomorrow and let him conduct the calibration and debugging. Suho wanted to experience the 10th generation console as soon as possible. During the installation and debugging of Feng Zhao's 10th generation console, he had been present and had witnessed the entire process. During Fiery Bird's annual conference, he had been invited over by Fiery Bird's R&D department to assist in the experiments and had understood a little. The chief engineer of the R&D department had also explained in detail the other functions of the 10th generation console. He couldn't compare to a professional engineer, but making the machine run some small games was not a problem. Feng Zhao dismantled the inner box and moved the machine out. According to his memory, he installed the few missing parts of the machine and started the preliminary debugging. Feng Zhao could settle this alone and didn't need any help. Su-ho sat at the side and watched. Curly Hair crouched at the side and watched Feng Zhao fiddle with the machine and then looked at Su-ho, who was studying the machine curiously. Then, Curly Hair jumped onto the sofa and lay down beside the beginner console's gaming helmet. Along the way, Su-ho received a call from his two younger sisters. He wanted to maintain the image of an inspirational youth that he had created during the sheep-herding competition. Because he was a member of the Su family, and because Muzhou's entertainment media loved to report on him, and because the sheep-herding competition had garnered a lot of attention, the moment Su-ho started a live broadcast, there were naturally many viewers. However, after Su-ho finished asking the question, he felt that it was inappropriate. He was no longer a wimpy kid who didn't know anything. He knew that Feng Zhao was willing to teach him because of their partnership, but many professional athletes would not publicly share their experiences. Feng Zhao was not officially taking in disciples and had not received any teaching fees. Why should he do a free live broadcast? Many people wanted to know how the 10th generation console operated and how it felt, yet he had actually asked Feng Zhao if he could do a live broadcast. He had simply asked without thinking. Cough, my bad. I shouldn't have asked this. Sure. What? Su-ho looked at Feng Zhao in astonishment. You can do a live broadcast, Feng Zhao replied. But Master Zhao, aren't you afraid that your experiences will be learned by others? Not at all. Go on. I'm ready to talk. Feng Zhao turned around and walked over to the 10th generation console. Okay, I'll be done right away. The moment Su-ho started a live broadcast, fans who followed him swarmed over. Yo, Fatty Su is finally doing a live broadcast. I heard you got beaten up by your dad? Fatty Su's face isn't injured. He probably received treatment. Every month, Fatty Su will have a few Chinibu episodes and refuse treatment. I'm used to it. The various trivial matters of Su-ho's family had already become the topic of conversation among the people of Muzhou. At the start, everyone had misgivings about Su-ho's status and it had been difficult to say much, but gradually, everyone understood Su-ho's character and spoke more boldly. In the past, Su-ho's old fans who followed him called him Little Fatty Su. After Su-ho had participated in the sheep-herding competition, the amount of exercise from training had been too great, and he had slimmed down. After the sheep-herding competition ended, even if he followed those experts around the fields every day, the amount of exercise was far less than the sheep-herding training. Once the amount of exercise decreased, his weight returned. Other people grew taller during puberty, but Su-ho continued to gain weight and grow taller. Now, everyone no longer called him Little Fatty Su, but Fatty Su. Some viewers who had watched Su-ho grow up had disliked him at the start, but after some time, they felt that this kid was actually rather interesting. His IQ was not high, and his EQ was not high either. In the past, he had always been cheated and had offended many people. Unexpectedly, his luck had taken a turn for the better. Although they were still doing stupid things now, everyone was just talking about it for fun. They also had a feeling of resentment that Iron didn't meet their expectations. They weren't like when they first started calling each other stupid and retarded. 2 days ago, when the photo of Su-ho being beaten up by his dad had been released, although everyone had been in the mood to watch a good show, they could not help but be a little worried. Furthermore, Su-ho had not done a live broadcast for a few days, so everyone had been even more worried. Now that Su-ho had started a live broadcast, everyone saw that he was fine and started laughing and joking again. But very quickly, everyone's attention was drawn to Su-ho's words. Su-ho had set up an automatic camera lens and let it follow Feng Zhao as he said, for everyone's benefit, Master Zhao is willing to share his 10th generation console experience and impart some tips and tricks to those who have never used it before or are new to it. Globally, everyone knew that there were only about 100 10th-generation consoles. The majority of gamers had no way of coming into contact with the 10th-generation console, and those who used the 10th-generation console were not willing to share their own experiences and feelings. This made it hard for them to even look at it. Now that they heard that Feng Zhao wanted to share his experience, gamers immediately informed their friends in their respective chat groups. Some gamers from other continents who did not pay attention to Su Ho or Dongshan Farm rushed over at top speed. Master Zhao? Is Fatty Su referring to the number 1 player in Battle of the Century, alive after 500 years, Feng Zhao? What? My Zhao God is actually going to broadcast his 10th-generation console experience? Finally, someone has heard our wishes and is willing to share. It's really Feng Zhao. There's even a 10th-generation console. On the other side, Feng Zhao had already started explaining. He tried his best to make it easy to understand, so that Su Ho could remember and understand. Feng Zhao had no intention of hiding this sort of experience. He could even share his creative experiences and insights, so he had no intention of hiding his gaming console experience and insights. And as the first gamer to achieve a high adaptability value of 99 using a 10th-generation console, even professional gamers from big esports clubs came to watch after receiving the news. Regardless of whether they could use it or not, there was no harm in listening. Who knew? There might be an unexpected surprise. Very quickly, various entertainment media outlets also reported on this matter. In Qian City, Wayne, who had just arrived in Yenzhou and returned to the company, also received the news. He searched for Su Ho's live broadcast channel and saw the number of online viewers. His face lit up. Over 40% of the mech's body has been damaged. This time, it has to be sent for repair, Feng Zhao said. That won't be a problem. Su Ho's bodyguard immediately replied. To him, Su Ho's safety was the top priority. As for sending it for repair, even if it cost a lot of money, anything that could be solved with money was not a problem. On the other side, Su Ho had already woken up and heard from his bodyguard what had happened. The new console that had just been shipped over had been damaged in less than an hour. Su Ho felt a little heartache, but he also felt that it was worth it. Comparing a machine and a human life, the latter was obviously more important. Furthermore, this machine had saved more than one person. If it had not been sent over today, the consequences would have been horrifying. His little life would have been over. As a member of the Su family and a minor with a high exposure rate, Su Ho had encountered too many kidnappings and murders since he was young. Luckily, he had managed to escape unscathed. Later on, perhaps because Su Ho was too useless, he didn't have much influence in the Su family, so the incidents he encountered had decreased. But after the sheep herding competition, Su Ho's status in the Su family rose and his exposure increased, and all sorts of troublesome matters arose. If he had hidden away in a remote place and kept a low profile, nobody would have thought of Su Ho, but Su Ho couldn't keep a low profile. Just by looking at the news about him every few days, one could tell that he was actually not someone who was willing to keep a low profile. The commotion this time was too big, and the repercussions were too wide. Su Ho didn't need to look for help. The Su family's real power figures would naturally intervene. This wasn't just Su Ho's matter. Someone was openly challenging the absolute status of Muzhou's Su family. Feng Zhao looked at Su Ho sitting there with his eyes unfocused and asked, "Are you all right?" This child couldn't have been smashed silly, right? He was already silly. If he was any more silly, he would really become a retard. Su Ho regained his senses and forced a smile. "I'm all right. Thank you, Master Zhao. It's all thanks to that 10th-generation console of yours. When this is over, I will teach you in detail how to use the 10th-generation console's protection mode." "I haven't taught you that much yet," Feng Zhao asked. "Do these things happen a lot?" "I'm used to it." Although that was what Su Ho said, he was really frightened this time. Although Feng Zhao had used the 10th generation console to protect him, and Su Ho had only suffered minor injuries, the fear of being buried under the rubble and unable to breathe in the rank, one darkness before he had fainted was still clearly imprinted in his mind. At this moment, Su Ho suddenly felt a little regretful. Had he been wrong to buy a farm so far away? He hadn't thought too much when buying the farm. For those people who wanted to buy the 10th generation console, a powered exoskeleton mecha was something that the masses simply had no way of coming into contact with. Thus, even if they had more money, they might not be able to come into contact with a real powered exoskeleton mecha. Since that was the case, why couldn't they use a gaming console to satisfy their cravings? This was much more exciting than racing a luxury car. This was the new generation of bragging godly devices. Furthermore, it could save one's life. Su Ho, someone in the family wants to buy this 10th generation console of yours, Su Feng said. However, given our friendship, if you are willing to resell it, why don't you sell it to me? Resell? Su Ho pointed to the nearby battered 10th generation console and told Su Feng. Master Zhao said that it can no longer be used normally and has to be sent for repairs. It's fine. If you transfer it to me, I will settle the rest myself. You don't have to pay for the repairs, Su Feng immediately said. Seeing the latest quote online, Su Ho's father was filled with regret. From a businessman's point of view, if the hype continued, the price of this console would continue to rise. Who wouldn't want such a deal? Su Ho really didn't want to. He felt that the 10th generation console had saved their lives. If something like this happened again and Feng Zhao wasn't around, he could follow the method Feng Zhao had taught him and hide in the 10th generation console to save his life. While Su Ho and Su Feng were talking, Feng Zhao received a text message from Chao Kansas. Fiery Bird's research and development chief engineer Chao Kan said that your 10th generation console will be repaired for free, Feng Zhao told Su Ho. Really? Can it be repaired back to its original state? Su Ho asked. Chao Kan said it can be repaired. That's good. I'm not selling the 10th generation console. As he spoke, Su Ho immediately logged onto his social media platform and posted a new status. Thanks to it, it saved my life. I'm not selling. The accompanying picture was of the damaged 10th generation console that had been left in front of the wreckage. It was covered in dents and dust. What happened next was the responsibility of the rescue team. They didn't need to rescue Su Ho, but there were still some seeds and compound fertilizer stored in a warehouse under the wreckage. These were all important items to the people of Muzhou. The people sent by the Su family had already started investigating the cause of the accident. To the public, it was announced that the landing system of the flying transport that had requested an emergency landing had malfunctioned. However, how many people believed this was out of their control? When Wayne arrived, the scene had already been cleaned up. There were no more wreckage. The rescue team had brought along professional tools and were indeed very efficient. After confirming that Feng Zhao was fine and that Zuyu's life was not in danger, Wayne told Feng Zhao to hurry back to Yenzhou. I feel that you should follow me back. We have seen the farm and picked up the dog. Let's go back immediately. I brought a medical team with me. They said that with Zuyu's injuries, he can be transferred back directly. This is definitely not a problem. Furthermore, whether this matter is a terrorist attack or a personal grudge, the Su family will handle it. You don't have to continue staying here. Let's go back and discuss how to deal with the press conference. Now that this has happened, it is inevitable that we will be questioned. Feng Zhao thought about it and agreed with Wayne's suggestion. Originally, Su Ho and Su Feng had wanted to properly thank Feng Zhao and at least have a good meal, but Wayne couldn't wait to bring Feng Zhao away from this troublesome place. As long as they left this place, Feng Zhao would not encounter such an incident. He had hoped that Feng Zhao could make his presence known, but if it was something like this, Wayne would rather not. His little heart couldn't take it. Thus, without even eating dinner, Wayne dragged Feng Zhao to board the flying transport back to Yenzhou. When Feng Zhao returned to Yenzhou, Fiery Bird's deputy CEO Tang Can personally contacted Feng Zhao to invite him to endorse the 10th generation console. Of course, there was no need for it now. After all, it had not been mass-produced, but it was still possible to confirm it first. Actually, Fang Zhao had not been able to control the machine immediately. If not for Su Ho's condition at the time, where he was buried in the rubble and had difficulty breathing, Fang Zhao would not have taken the risk of trying to control the machine. As for the entertainment reporters, another point of focus was Fang Zhao's military service. Celebrities' military service always excited the media. They always wanted to find some controversial topics, such as a certain celebrity using his connections to transfer to an easier place for his military service, a certain celebrity going to a foreign planet to mine but in reality, he was vacationing on a newly developed planet, or a certain celebrity's military service record being faked. Many people wanted to use their connections to transfer to a more relaxed place for their military service, but some people could really make a move, while others could only watch helplessly and vent on the internet, criticizing those who were special. Public figures like celebrities were the focus of their flaming. If Fang Zhao had been transferred to an easier place for his military service, they would definitely have flamed him mercilessly. However, Fang Zhao did not reveal the specifics of where he would be serving. Even Wayne did not know. Duan Qinji had asked Fang Zhao a few times, but Fang Zhao had said that he would return to Yanbei City before Memorial Day and discuss it with the old master before making a decision. On January 26th, Fang Zhao rented a car and drove from Qian City to Yanbei City with curly hair. Every year during Memorial Day, the security checks were especially strict. The closer it was to Memorial Day, the heavier the traffic flow. Before Fang Zhao entered Yanbei City, he had to pass through a security checkpoint. There were many cars today, and he had to queue up to enter the checkpoint. Fortunately, the security check was quick. Although it looked like a long queue, it actually did not take long. After queuing for about 10 minutes, Fang Zhao drove the car into the security checkpoint. Besides the equipment that scanned the car for dangerous items, the identity of the driver would also be displayed on the screen in front of the security officer. The moment the security officer saw the driver's identity information on the screen, he was stunned for a moment. However, he quickly regained his composure and walked out of the duty room. He walked forward and gestured to the car to roll down the window. During the security check, the security officer would do spot checks on some cars and personally look at the driver and passengers. This sort of thing was very common, so the people queuing behind didn't find it strange. The security officer walked to the window with a straight face. After the window was pulled down, he took out a paper notebook and pen from his pocket and handed them into the car. Then, he solemnly said, "Sir, can I trouble you to sign this?" Fang Qi and Fang Ling, who were curious about the dog, grabbed a comb and fought to comb Curly Hair's fur. Second Annie Fang was trembling with fear as she watched from the side, worried that the two children would pull too much of Curly Hair's fur off. Yesterday, when she had seen the dog, she had not known how to feed it. She had been afraid that the food she had prepared would spoil it. Luckily, Fang Zhao had brought dog food. After watching from the side for a while, the second aunt of the Fang family couldn't help but reach out to touch the dog. They knew the value of this dog, and their hands were trembling as they touched the dog's fur. Memorial Day was the busiest time of the year at the retirement facility. People came and went, just like before. Today, great-grandfather Fang and great-grandmother Fang woke up early in the morning. They changed into clean, festive clothes and sat at the door, waiting for the younger generation to arrive. 1 hour, 2 hours. People arrived one after another. There were also a few juniors they thought highly of. They gave them a few words of advice and gave them a big red packet. It seemed no different from previous years. But today, the two elders would stretch their necks to look outside every once in a while or check to see if they had received any new news. Within an hour, they had already checked more than 10 times. The people who saw this scene looked at each other and made a toothache expression. Who were they waiting for? Who else could it be? The two elders basically only treated the younger generation amiably. In the past, they had treated their grandchildren rather well, but now, only their great-grandchildren could warm up their attitudes. And among the great-grandchildren, the one who was doing the best was Fang Zhao. Ding! A text message notification beeped. Great-grandfather Fang's eyebrows twitched. He quickly checked it and replied. On the other side, Fang Zhao, who had already entered the retirement facility, moved separately from his second uncle and aunt's family. After parking his car in the parking lot, he walked through another door. He had sent the two elders a message as soon as he had arrived. This was at the request of the two elders. Feng Zhao was different now. He was a celebrity with a bit of fame. There were quite a few youngsters at the retirement facility today. If he was recognized, it could have a negative impact on the retirement facility. Great-grandfather Feng had told him that if he had no urgent matters to attend to, he should head over to the two elders' residence to rest. When things were done here, the two elders would return and have a chat with Feng Zhao. As Feng Zhao walked from the parking lot to the residence of the two elders, he passed by another family that had come to visit their elders. The father was teaching his high school student son how to please the elders. Noticing his son's distracted state, he got a little angry. Many people in the retirement home knew that Feng Zhao was great-grandfather Feng's great-grandson. Your great-grandson is here? Why, old man Feng, are you trying to give your great-grandson special treatment?
Someone asked with a laugh.
SK, am I that kind of person? I'm getting him to take the initiative to apply for military service. When the application system opens tomorrow, I'll let him submit his application, great-grandfather Feng said with a straight face. There were only a few people who could take the initiative to apply, and most of them didn't want to go. A few elders in the retirement home glanced at great-grandfather Feng in astonishment. You must be bragging, right? You're willing to let your celebrity great-grandson go to that kind of place? Why would I be unwilling? He's a youngster after all. He needs to train his temperament. I don't expect him to fight for military merits. He isn't going down that path anyway. I'm letting him go to the toughest places to experience and hone his skills. Only then will he be able to go further. Great-grandfather Feng's words were met with laughter by the retirees who understood his temperament. If they really believed him, then they would have wasted their 100 years of living. Ignoring what others thought, the next day, Feng Zhao opened up the military service application system and followed great-grandfather Feng's suggestion to sort the applications from difficult to easy. The most difficult ones were indeed the Arcturus and Fomalhaut that great-grandfather Feng had mentioned. However, great-grandfather Feng had suggested that Feng Zhao first apply for military service on Arcturus. Arcturus's service age was even higher. Many of its crew members were extremely experienced and wouldn't panic if they encountered any problems. Feng Zhao filled in his personal information and submitted his application. Perhaps because there were too few applicants for these difficult military service programs, the review was very quick. In the afternoon, Feng Zhao received a reply. Rejected. Flipping to another page. Reason: political background check has not been passed. Unsuitable for military service on this ship. Feng Zhao stared at the words, political background check has not been passed. He couldn't understand why his application had been rejected because of this reason. He didn't have any criminal records in his file, and his Blackstreet experience didn't warrant this. Many people had Blackstreet experience. Even some military officers had Blackstreet experience. After some thought, Feng Zhao submitted another application for military service on Fomalhaut. The next morning, Feng Zhao received a reply. Rejected. Reason: political background check has not been passed. Unsuitable for military service on this ship.